Hey everyone, I'm Zvi from Supersonic, ironSource's publishing solution. In our first 2 years, we've published 38 hyper-casual mobile games. 25 of those have reached the top 10 in the gaming charts in the US, so it's fair to say that we know what we're talking about. In this 4-part course, I'll take you through the entire process of developing a hit hyper-casual game, from coming up with a concept all the way to launching it globally. We break this down into 4 stages. Concept, where you are researching the market and finding ideas. Marketability testing, which includes an initial CPI test and then a more advanced test to see if you have the product market fit. Building out the game and adding retention mechanics. And launching the game, first in soft launch and then globally. Each one of these phases will get a video session to itself, so there's going to be a lot for you to take away. To start this course, we're starting with conceptualization phase. By the end of this video, you'll know the different aspects of this and 4 main methods for finding a concept for a new hyper-casual game. First things first, let's lay down some ground rules when it comes to coming up with your concept. Generally speaking, your concept needs to do a few things. Be marketable at scale. The goal is to get low CPI. Find a wide audience, be easy for everyone and their grandmother to understand, have a mechanic that complements that concept. Coming up with a great idea for a game is often one of the most difficult parts of the process. You need to think of a concept that is super marketable and can scale. At the same time, you need to make sure it's engaging for users and feels fun to play. A good place to start is analyzing the market to find what's currently popular in the hyper-casual industry. Take a look at market intelligence solutions like Game Refinery, Game Analytics, or App Annie to find the insight you're looking for. Seeing the mechanics, subgenres, elements, and narratives of the games already at the top can inspire your own concept and make sure it has marketable features. Your market analysis does not need to be a huge time-consuming project. For example, ours at Supersonic is a simple sheet that breaks games down into publishers, subgenres, narratives, mechanics, and elements. After running your market analysis, take a look on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for new trends that could be integrated into your hyper-casual concept. Fidget trading games from TikTok, for example, were the inspiration behind games like Fidget Trading 3D that reached the top of the hyper-casual charts, and loads of other games have tapped into TikTok trends. After keeping tabs on social media trends and doing your market analysis, you can start thinking of a concept. Remember, you're most likely going to be testing out loads of different prototypes, maybe even at the same time. The market is super competitive and fast moving. Trends change all the time, so you need to move fast. Now that you've checked out social media trends and done your market analysis, it's time to start thinking about innovative concepts. Here are 4 strategies to guide you. The first strategy is to get inspired by an existing hyper-casual game template, then introduce a twist to the narrative or mechanic. Since the game inspiring yours is already a popular concept, it's more likely to have high marketability power. Having said that, you need to make sure your concept brings something new and innovative. If not, it will be a struggle to be marketable, as the original game may have already acquired millions of users. For example, our game, 911 Emergency Dispatcher, was inspired by a decision-making concept in another game of ours called Chatmaster. Both are decision-making games that simulate a real-world experience, but 911 has an entirely different narrative. The game puts the user in the front seat as an emergency dispatch, whereas in Chatmaster simulates funny conversations from our day-to-day life. There's a bunch of different subgenres within the hyper-casual game category, like simulations, action, and puzzle. If you see a mechanic or a narrative performing well in the charts, try adapting it for a different subgenre. Reimagining a popular game like this helps attract users that gravitate towards a certain subgenre, while adding a new element to your game that makes it stand out. Just look at our game Bridge Race. This hit game leveraged the stacking mechanic of runner games in the top charts and changed it to fit the IO subgenre, which taps into the competitive nature of players. The popular mechanic was reinvented in an innovative way, helping Bridge Race become the most downloaded game in the world in Q2 of 2021. Successful games have also been born out of the mashup approach, where you take one element, like the core mechanic or theme, from two existing popular games and combine them to create a new concept. Each element has already proven to be popular, so applying these features to a new concept makes sure your game has high marketability power. Remember, that's our number one target at this stage, marketability, aka product market fit. Take Shortcut Run from Voodoo, which combines the stacking element from popular games like Stair Run with the shortcut element of top games like Aqua Park, also from Voodoo. Bringing both popular features into one game and tweaking the gameplay led Shortcut Run to the top of the charts. You can also try reinventing the wheel. Thinking of an entirely new narrative or mechanic that's not in the hyper-casual charts yet. This is harder, but the potential upsides are larger than other approaches. This approach needs a lot of creativity because there aren't other examples of a similar game for you to use for inspiration. There's also a risk that because this is a brand new idea that hasn't proven its popularity in the hyper-casual charts, you don't know if users will understand or enjoy it. But you can test its marketability to judge if it's a fit for the market. It just might take more tests and ideas to find a marketable concept versus using an already existing popular concept. A game we published called Going Balls, personal favorite, is an example of this strategy. No other successful hyper-casual game at that time had the same core mechanic and overall execution. We tested the initial prototype and saw that the users enjoyed playing the game. Average day 0 playtime was over 850 seconds. Day 1 retention rates were between 37 and 42%. Pretty good. Scaling this original concept and making some game tweaks helped Going Balls reach number 1 on Android in the US and generate serious profit, all while maintaining its strong in-game metrics. Whatever approach you choose, it will be helpful to see some examples of trending mechanics in the hyper-casual charts. So to finish our opening session off, I'm going to share 4 of the top trending mechanics we've seen that we believe will stay relevant for quite some time. The multiplier mechanic lets players grow their resources in bursts, instead of collecting and growing one resource at a time. For example, a player can pass through a gate in a runner game that multiplies their resource by ×3, as opposed to watching their resource trickle up slowly with individual collection. Using multipliers adds excitement and helps players build up their in-game resources faster, which can really improve in-game KPIs like retention and playtime. Stacking has been a popular mobile game mechanic for longer than you think, dating back as far as Snake, which is basically just rear stacking. Now we're seeing several stacking games in the top of the hyper-casual charts, like Bridge Race, which has achieved over 100 million installs in 3 months. Garowell Games, who developed Bridge Race, worked with Supersonic to evolve the classic stacking mechanic into something much more dynamic. Players would stack tiles to build bridges and progress through the levels. This feature added depth to the game and made it much more exciting. The decision-making mechanic is good for story-based games. The choose-your-own-adventure style of the mechanic gives power to the player and appeals to those who are story-driven. 911 Emergency Dispatcher is one example of the decision-making game that achieved incredible success in 2021, reaching number 1 across all categories on both iOS, even surpassing TikTok from the top spot. In the game, players have the right and wrong choice, like deciding which emergency service to request based on the call that they received through the dispatch. In transformation runner games, the player controls an avatar which they can transform into other things at different points in the level, like a car or a boat. As players earn more resources, they can unlock new items to transform into. In older versions of games with this mechanic, there were buttons on the screen that players could tap to switch the character's state. Now transformation runners don't include tapping between options. Instead, players interact with in-game pickups that trigger character progression. Games with this mechanic tend to do well on social networks and have a long playtime for the category, probably because users get to experience a transformation process that makes them feel rewarded throughout the gameplay, not just when they finish a level, as in the case with a traditional runner. And that's it for this session. I'll see you again for our next class where you'll learn how to actually run a marketability test and analyze the results to see if your concept is a product market fit that can scale.